The NBA draft has happened, and now NBA free agency is going on. So pretty much, the NBA offseason is in full swing. Did your team do enough, or did your team do nothing at all? I'm going to break some of those things down, starting with the Eastern Conference today. Before I get into everything, first and foremost, thanks for watching this video. Secondly, if you've liked what you've heard, like the video, subscribe to the channel. There'll be more videos of all different types of conversations. So hopefully, I get you to stick around and I can get you to come back. That's the plan. That's the hope. So, the Philadelphia 76ers, the New York Knicks. If you are fans of the Sixers and the Knicks, or shall I say the Villanova Knicks, you should be pretty happy right about now, right? I would think so. But did they do enough to unseat the defending champs? First, let's take a look at what New York did. If we're going to go in chronological order, five, five unprotected draft picks, five to the Brooklyn Nets, who are clearly tanking for next year's draft, which is supposed to be one of the most talented draft classes in quite some time. But five draft picks in several years, I think there's two in next year's draft. For a player who is, I'm not going to say he's not a bum. Mikal Bridges is not a bum, but is he that much of a difference maker to get the Knicks over the hump? Is he enough to get them in the Eastern Conference Finals? Perhaps. If you just think about the fit and the style of play. What about the Sixers? Paul George. Paul George and the Wonders. That make you excited? Well, the odds makers have the Sixers as 400 or 4-1 favorites to win the chip or the Eastern Conference. Let me correct myself. Did they do enough? And did any other team in the East do enough to represent the conference in the NBA Finals? Orlando made a significant move in getting KCP. I don't know if that's enough, but what they needed was a grown up in the room and they needed a shooter. And in the process, they were also able to hold on to Gary Harris, who, quite frankly, is a very underrated signing because of his defense, because of his 3-point shooting, and his ability to understand what the game needs at certain points in time. So that's going to be pretty interesting. But let's write off Orlando for now because they're still young. And even signing an adult who has won 2 championships, I don't know if that's going to be enough. So that brings me to the Knicks. The fit with Mikal Bridges, it's an obvious one. 5 first round draft picks unprotected. To me, that's giving away too much. Even if it's in the back end of the draft, that's giving away too much. That's the Knicks and Leon Rose mortgaging the future to win now. The move that they needed to make was to hold on to Isaiah Hartenstein, and that didn't happen. He signed a 4-year mega deal to go to OKC, which, quite frankly, I don't necessarily know if that's a good fit. But when you're going after the bag, go after the bag, man. Go after the bag. So, does the Knicks have enough size to compete with Boston? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. But they did borrow from that blueprint of defensive minded wings who can do a little bit. It's arguable that they have 6 or 7 guys that can haul off and score 25 at any given time because you have Brunson, you have Julius Randle, who, if he were healthy, perhaps the season would have ended a lot differently for the Knicks. You have Josh Hart, who can get you 25. You have OG Ananobi who can get you 25. Resigning him was the Knicks needed to do that for defensive purposes, and just he changed the identity and the complexity of the team, in my humble opinion. Then you have Dante DiVincenzo who can get you buckets. Let's not let's not sleep on Mikal Bridges and his ability to score. He's not a number one. He's not a number one top person that you're gonna be like, okay, we got to stop this guy. He's not him, but that doesn't mean that he can't get his. And I could go on a little bit in regards to the scoring, but there's one basketball, and while there's a group that likes to share the ball, I don't know if it's enough size because sometimes when the ball's not going into the basket, you gotta have somebody to rebound, and you gotta have somebody to block out for those rebounds, and not just Mitchell Robinson, who last season couldn't stay as healthy as he needed to. And that's been an ongoing thing for him for the last couple of years, where he's missed enough games, more than enough games. So I'll still give the Knicks a decent chance, but I'm not ready to vault them over the Boston Celtics just yet. I think they need one more big, maybe a rim running big, someone who's more defensive minded, can get some rebounds and can stretch the floor a little bit. I think that's along the lines of what they're going to need. As far as the 76ers, I actually like the Sixers' moves overall. They did some things that made sense. You have a guy in Paul George signing that mega deal. Paul George, top 15, top 20 NBA player. To me, he's a guaranteed Hall of Famer. I don't know where some of you all stand with it, but to me, he's a guaranteed Hall of Famer. Not necessarily for his ballot, but I believe he will get in there. He can get you 20 to 30 points a night without a problem. You all gonna have Joel Embiid, and that's a problem. When he's healthy, he's a problem. The playoffs would have looked a lot different if he was healthy. One, they wouldn't have been facing the Knicks in the first round. That's first and foremost. But things would have looked a lot differently had he been healthy. Tyrese Maxey is only going to get better. Young, explosive point guard, most improved player of the year. He's only going to get better. And then they went out and they re-signed Kelly Oubre, huge signing. He was good for them defensively. He can get buckets when they need, and he is actually turned out to be a good 3-and-D slashing wing player. At least he was a good fit for the Sixers. I also expect them to re-sign Kyle Lowry, a table setter, someone who knows what to do, when to do, who to get the ball to, when to be a little bit selfish. Those things are a little underrated in my opinion. Hard to dismiss that, and you can only expect the Sixers, if healthy, to do some damage in the East. Also, don't sleep on the Eric Gordon side. That's a good guy to have coming off the bench. He can get you an instant bucket, 3-point shooting, solid defensively. He's lost a few steps, but he's getting up there in his NBA tenure. But he's still a solid veteran to have. And Andre Drummond, bringing Andre Drummond back to that team to back up Embiid, where if Embiid is out or if they just want to rest Embiid for a game or two, now they have a big center, not necessarily the same player, and that's okay. But Andre Drummond balled out for the Chicago Bulls this past season in his limited minutes. Resigning Paul Reed was wise. He is projected to be their starting power forward. I think that's an upgrade in regards to what he brings to the table because he helps defensively. He's also a live body and he would provide for them in that starting four position something a little bit differently than what Tobias Harris provided for them this past season. So look out for the Sixers. I'm not going to anoint them as the kings of the East. Not going to do that because the Celtics pretty much haven't lost anybody. So what they can do is at least make things a little more competitive and a little more interesting. And newsflash, folks, the Milwaukee Bucks haven't gone anywhere. And now with a year under their belt, Giannis, Dame Lillard, they'll be able to understand each other a little bit. They'll be able to know what each other likes as far as spacing on the floor and things like that. They were starting to come around a little bit until the Giannis injury, and then things kind of fell flat. But I'm not writing them off just yet. And we all know injuries happen. Injuries happen in basketball. Injuries happen in sports. So don't dismiss them just yet. The Indiana Pacers, I see the Pacers, although they haven't made any moves of significance, I see them gaining a little more momentum. They'll be hovering around the fifth or sixth seed once again. Things will be interesting for them because as a young team, we can only expect them to get better, get better, get better, and better. So, folks, look for the East to get better. Look for the teams in the East, at least in the top, the upper echelon of the East, to get better. Miami's not going anywhere either, but they haven't done anything of significance. So we'll just wait and see. They're always around. It's kind of like the bug, the cockroach of the league, and I don't mean that in an angry way or bad way. I mean it as that team that's hard to knock off in the Miami Heat. They're not going anywhere. They'll be hovering around that picture also. So is Cleveland once they figure out what they're going to do with Garland and Donovan Mitchell. So that chapter isn't written off just yet. Needless to say, it's going to be an interesting time in the Eastern Conference. And those are my playoff teams. If you include Boston, the Sixers, the Knicks, Orlando, the Bucks, Cleveland, Indiana, Miami. Those should be, barring a catastrophic injury, should be the eight playoff teams representing the Eastern Conference come next season. So, but if you like what you've heard, hit the like button and subscribe to the page. I can really use it. I greatly appreciate it. I greatly appreciate you all. Thank you all for watching this. I'll see you around very soon.